Right, good morning, everyone. Right, we've got a fantastic number already on. I'm sure a couple more will still continue to join as we go through the next hour or so. But like I say, good morning and welcome. My name's Ashley Shorey-Mills. I am Supply Chain Engagement Director here at the Suffolk Chamber of Commerce. Many of you I've met before, some new names and some new companies on the call as well, which is always great. But thank you for joining us for today's webinar, all around finding the supply chain to help build the accommodation campus at Sizewell C. I'm just going to run through. Oh, now just to double check, there's one person saying they can't hear me. Can anyone else just put a message if they can or can't hear me, just so we can work out if it's an individual issue for that person? If someone can just check on, I can hear. Right, I think it's probably whoever that person was who just put they can't hear me. I would suggest log off, log back on again, and then you should be able to hear us absolutely fine. That's always the safest. Right, there we go. So we'll carry on. So if I can have the next slide, please. So just as a quick starter, and just to help you all understand who we are, so the Suffolk Chamber, we are the 8th largest Chamber of Commerce in the UK, and we have been very proudly working with Sizewell C now for well over a decade. So when you get news like a couple of weeks ago with the government's commitment and the 14.2 billion that's been set aside, not many cheered much louder than us because of the years of work we put in to help ensure that this project really does leave that biggest legacy possible for the region. We are helping to run the local and regional engagement, to work alongside Sizewell, to run the Sizewell C supply chain portal and the social media, to really help amplify the messages coming out of the project, to arrange events like today, and to really try and help everyone understand where those opportunities are coming from. We've got nearly 3,000 businesses on the portal in total. So it's great to see so many businesses interested in what's happening. And as it says there, there's nearly 1 million people employed across those businesses that are registered on our platform. And there's a team of 6 of us dedicated to supporting you and what you want to get out of this project, and to help Sizewell really unearth that talent that we have across the region. Next slide, please. So, of course, those commitments that are so often showed, and many of you have seen these slides in various guises over the years, but Sizewell is not just trying to build a supply chain, it's trying to do it in the right way, in the best way possible for the area that it impacts, i.e. the East of England. So many of you have seen these 5 core aims of social value that the project is looking to deliver. The ESG commitments are critical. And the key one for us around our role is goal 1. Whilst we help focus businesses across all 5, goal 1 of that championing the UK supply chain and prioritising local and regional businesses first is really key to everything that you'll hear today, and that is part of our work. Next slide, please. And of course, that commitment that has been made, so that goal is one thing, but actually there's a commitment that sits underneath it. So Sizewell itself has committed to 4.4 billion through the construction of Sizewell C into our region, and of that 2 billion in Suffolk alone. And of course, so it's about doing the best for Suffolk and the region out of Sizewell C, but also now, and again, you'll have seen alongside the 14.2 billion announcement from the government, actually that re-engagement of the nuclear industry and the nuclear supply chain across the UK. So we're building up the supply chain for Sizewell, but actually we're building up the supply chain for UK nuclear as well. And GBN, Great British Nuclear, is very much now looking at all of these different projects, all of the different ways in which nuclear renaissance is going to happen, and seeing where those opportunities for growth can be across the whole of the UK. Next slide, please. And of course, we have our priorities. Many of you have seen these. Fundamentally, we are there to ensure that local businesses are given an opportunity on this project. And we will help you get as ready as we can to make sure that when Sizewell needs you, you're in the right place. And again, you'll hear bits of this today. We need to ensure that there is a legacy from this project. And that's not just about everyone winning contracts. That's about the right contracts in the right places at the right times, getting that sustainable and proportionate growth, so that when Sizewell is finished, because it will get finished, is that actually we have the opportunities for those businesses to continue to grow and prosper beyond Sizewell C. Next slide, please. And we do that in multiple ways, and some of this will be touched on today, but ultimately we are there to support Sizewell. You'll hear from Hannah and Elliot soon, and I know there's other colleagues from Sizewell on the call today. but also we're there for you as businesses to help get up to that level of what is needed to work on Sizewell, but also to work on all of the infrastructure projects that are happening in the region. So it's not just about Sizewell, it's about utilising the support and dedication that Sizewell are giving to local supply chain to benefit the wider Suffolk economy in the best way we possibly can. Next slide, please. So we have two portals that we always focus on. Firstly, many of you already registered on this, hence you got the invite today. Our database, sizewellcsupplychain.co.uk. It's where you register your details. It's where we encourage businesses to continue to visit and update your details on the portal. The more you tell us about yourselves, the better job we can do in supporting you. The other aspect is that you'll also see information on the project, on the events that are coming up, support that we've put on. So everything we do is in one place. Next slide, please. And then the other one, which I know will be discussed a little later, so I'll just touch on it briefly, is Compete For. This is the national database where all competitively tendered opportunities will be hosted as a signpost. So you must ensure as a business, get yourself registered on Compete For as well. That way, if you wish to express interest in a package, you can see it. But also you can see contract award data. You can see the forward look of planned procurement. You can see lots and lots of extra information about the detail behind the packages that are coming up. Next slide, please. So in a second, I'll hand you over to the team from Sizewell. Just as a reminder, I know many of you pre-submitted questions in advance. We will touch them at the end. If anyone has any other questions during the presentation, please put them in the Q&A button that you'll see at the top. I know a couple of you raised hands. I will put them down in a second. We will not be doing any live ability for anyone to talk. So any questions that you have got, can you ensure you put them into the Q&A function if you can, please? So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Hannah.
Thanks, Ash. Hi, everyone. So just a couple of introductions. I'm Hannah Wilson. I'm the procurement lead for the campus here at Sizewell.
And hi, I'm Elliot Alexander. I'm the campus quantity surveyor for McLaren Construction.
Next slide, please. So just a bit of an overview on where we are with Sizewell in general at the minute. So this is a drone footage taken last month on the development of Sizewell as we are to date. As you can see, a lot of earthworks has been done, completed. To the bottom east corner, that's the main construction area where the main reactor will be housed. The main central part of the project on the screen is the TCA, which is the temporary construction area where the majority of the work is going on at the minute, which will house a lot of the welfare and desalination plants, etc., to support the build of Sizewell C. And as you can see to the left-hand side, the workers' campus, the earthworks are underway, and you can see the plot size there. So next slide, please. So for the accommodation campus as a whole, this is our nice, I guess, concept design sketch. As you can see, this was the left-hand side of that previous slide. All these small blocks are where the accommodation will be held, and to the south side is the amenity building, which is a central hub for the workers' campus. Next slide, please. So for the campus in total, so as an overall, the project aim is to provide the campus for living quarters for 2,400 workers. To be comprised of a number of 3- and 4-story residential buildings, as previously shown. The accommodation blocks are non-residential welfare, and with the amenity building, as mentioned, is a central hub with a kitchen, bar, gym, multifunctional room, etc., to support the workers on site. So all of our works from Sizewell and McLaren, which we'll go into later, we support the provision of the infrastructure, plant and services associated with the operation of the campus, all landscaping, all groundworks, etc., to undertake, to finalise and complete the works for all these 2,400 workers. There will also be a car park in there as well, with electric car parking spaces and motorbikes and cycle. storage. Next slide, please. So this is a quick summary of how we've evolved. So back in 2023, the campus looked a bit different. So there were 3 amenity buildings and 26 accommodation blocks. We have reduced that to 16 blocks and combined the amenity building into one, allowing more green space surrounding the area, but ensuring that the sizing of the rooms and the capacity of the room stays the same. Next slide, please.
As Hannah's already mentioned, the scheme's fairly phased. So we have commenced on site this year with the amenity building foundation. So that's the first phase, and that's the first area of works that is due to be complete. We are due to be looking at the next phase of packages, as you'll see on Complete For later, which will be the accommodation buildings. So the foundations for that will be looking to be let in the coming months, which will take us on to the next phases for the accommodation buildings, and we'll look to hand 4 buildings over along with the amenity building whilst working our way up the campus as a whole. So if you move on to the next slide, please. You'll see eventually that the accommodation is due to complete towards the end of 2027. And that brings the campus to a close. As Hannah mentioned beforehand, it's a home away from home for the workers, essentially, with the amenity building providing the place to relax, and the accommodation buildings providing a place to stay, and a place to warm meals up, and a place to rest after a long day at work. Moving on to the next slide, please. So McLaren and Sizewell, fundamentally, we're working in collaboration with each other. We're here as the construction manager, and we'll be engaging with each trade contractor. We provide from the initial outset, so early engagement through procurement, putting sourcing strategies together, developing how the scheme is going to evolve, as Hannah's mentioned, from 2023 up till now, through to completion, through our recommendations and how we perceive the best way to build the project and deliver a successful scheme for Sizewell and ultimately the surrounding areas. And that is through lots of engagement with the relevant parties that Sizewell have, and making sure that the local spend and infrastructure is met as we kind of go through things. So McLaren are here to aid the process from inception all the way through to completion ultimately. The trade contracts will be dealt with direct with Sizewell, so they go into contract together, which is through a NEC contract, and that is administrated through CMAR, and we are there to make sure the process is seamless between the trade contractor and Sizewell. So we are there to provide any sort of guidance and make sure the process from application through to payment is done in the way that it should be carried out through the contract. On to the next one.
So just delve a bit deeper into the procurement process for on Sizewell and what we are, and the process essentially that we go through. Next slide, please. So as Elliot and Ash have said, Complete For is where you'll need to be registered and where your attention needs to be turned to. So all packages within the campus will be competitively tendered, if possible. So please register on Complete For under the Sizewell C homepage, as Ash mentioned earlier, where all opportunities will be released and you'll be notified of those opportunities. At that point, once the packages have been released and the expressions of interest have been issued, we will review and analyse those to establish our tender list. Our tender list will be defined by the EOIs we receive. The tender process will then be carried out through our e-tendering portal iValuer, which we will obviously get in touch with those nominated tenderers to register on that portal, if not already, to engage through that tender process. That portal is fairly simple to use. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. As Elliot mentioned, all contracts will be NEC3 ECC contracts, with our intention of letting them all under an option A, with a significant portion of those packages, including elements of contractor design, as we need to allow for all interfaces going forward. And again, as Elliot mentioned, all contract management will be via CMAR, a well-known contract management system in the industry to manage the NEC contract. Next slide, please. So I appreciate all of the people on this call. There is a whole range of capacity, capabilities, etc. So we wanted to highlight that these smaller businesses without the capacity or capability to be, I guess, a Sizewell defined tier 1, we'll still have opportunities to work on the campus, where we will be encouraging all of our trade contractors to also advertise subcontracting opportunities to compete for, and that will be managed through their own contracts as well. So as said previously, keep an eye on that Sizewell C homepage for any of those subcontracting opportunities and those tier 1 opportunities. We'll also, innovation as always, encouraged through the trade contracts and their subcontractors. Next slide, please. So we'll go into a bit of detail on we'll highlight the programme. So if you can, next slide.
Yes, I think we've touched on this already. So Hannah's been involved in the campus scheme for quite a period of time. There's been a bit of evolution front end, but we have officially started our foundations for the amenity buildings earlier last month. And that will kind of quickly take shape and lead us on to the very quick programme that has us finishing towards the end of 27. Hence why we've kind of had this hosting online today to kind of get everyone aware of what the requirements are, what the campus is, and how we perceive that it's going to be delivered successfully as ultimately a team, which is a case of those dates is what we're working towards. It's going to be a case of very much of working through it together. The various accommodation buildings, as you can see, there is 3 or 4 working on at once to make sure that this programme is successfully delivered in line with what Sizewell's requirements are. Next slide, please. I think this kind of brings it all back together quite nice. I think, as Hannah said, to date, we've put a few EOIs on Compete For, which I know some on the call are aware of. But if we move on to the next slide, our anticipation is to separate the EOIs into 2 separate areas. So next slide, please. The first area is what we're looking at the moment, so the amenity building. So the ones highlighted in green, apart from the internal walls, have already been placed on Compete For, with the lifts and M&E drawing to a close by the end of this week. So they're due to be shut, I think, Thursday or Friday this week, with then just a bit of a headline sort of expression of interest date that we will be looking to send the rest of the areas out for in due course. It also gives those on the call a bit of a flavour as to what the value ranges are in regards to the amenity building. And then the next slide, please. That brings us on to the accommodation buildings, which once again I think goes back to what Hannah was mentioning earlier. When we look at the values of the M&E and a few others which are due to be coming to an end this week, brings us nicely to the fact that those tier 1 trade contractors, as we refer to them as Sizewell, will be advertising through Compete For any additional resource that may be required, and it will bring the local sort of infrastructure and spend up again, as well as the sort of collaboration that we need from everyone to get the scheme over the line. So hopefully this gives everyone a bit of an understanding and a bit of an appreciation of the size of the job, what the thought process is in regards to packages and associated timeframes of said packages, as well as when we're looking to deliver those packages onto the Compete For website. So I think the plan is, and I'm jumping from saying things incorrectly here, the Compete For what we can see here that has been shared in regards to a bit of an indicative timeline will be put on to Big Four, so everyone can have a bit more of an overview by the end of this month.
Yeah.
So we're going to go through and update this and make sure that the expressions of interest dates are aligned with our current programme, and it just gives the supply chain a greater understanding as to when we expect to put the information out there, and equally when we expect to have things back from the supply chain to make sure it's a collaborative workforce.
Correct.
Next slide.
So we'll just go into a bit of high level information on what kind of we require on Sizewell and the key points to look out for. So next slide, please. So within the campus and Sizewell in general, there's a few must-haves and nice-to-haves. And some of these obviously are determined by law as well. So Sizewell do require an ISO 1001 auditable quality management system to be in place for your organisations, and an environmental policy as well. We also require an environmental management system, ISO 14001 if possible. If not, an externally audited environmental management system is required. A D&I policy, a modern slavery statement in line with the International Labour Organization, and ISO 45001 or an equivalent. So that's Sizewell as a general, but within the campus and our Sizewell team to manage that, we are looking for NEC experience within our trade contracts. A nice to have also would be working under a construction management approach, where you have, as Elliot has explained earlier, a PM team from McLaren supporting Sizewell, and Construction Line Gold or similar accreditation. Again, we will not be discounting people for not having Construction Line Gold, but it is useful and helpful for Sizewell. Next slide, please. And things to just be aware of at Sizewell. So a few key pillars and for information. Health and safety is a key pillar on Sizewell, as it should be, as it is and should be on any construction project, with PBPI being vital. Safety briefings, stand downs, and a collaborative approach are also required from our trade contractors. We want to work with our trade partners to create an accident-free or zero accident site, and collaboration is key for that. As most of you know, the park and ride is vital for Sizewell, so they are due to be partially opened later on this year. So any tender returns, etc., need to allow for car sharing and parking at park and rides. More information on that, I think, can be found through Ash and the Chamber if needed. Inductions vetting. So Sizewell is obviously a sensitive nuclear site, so there are enhanced vetting and induction requirements. So every operative and worker on Sizewell has to have a up-to-date CITB health and safety test to be before they can even do their induction, which is a half-day induction before starting work. And BPSS, simple BPSS, is required for all workers on site. Currently, things may change going forward, but that's what we know today. And as Ash mentioned earlier, social value is a key pillar with our 5 goals. I've kind of summarised there. So local employment and MOU and regional spend, which includes Suffolk, the east of England, the north, and Wales. Apprentices are key to delivering Sizewell, and upskilling that industry comes alongside it. And we have a significant impact and requirement to be supporting the UK Steel Charter as well. So that's it from us. So if you've got any questions, feel free, as Ash said, to put them in the chat or Q&A, or I'll hand back over to Ashley.
Brilliant. All right. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Elliot. I'll keep you both there anyway, because I think if you can touch on the pre-submitted questions first, but I think just as a couple of points of note for everyone that obviously I noted down there, and I think is important. As you saw, the values on lots of these contracts is quite substantial. But I just want to reassure for a lot of the audience today that are smaller businesses, the whole aim and purpose is that whoever ends up getting awarded the contract, as Elliot said, where it then is broken down into subcontracts, that opportunity where it's competitively tendered will also go and compete for. So where Sizewell have just put the lifts one on, for example, that's not necessarily the end of it. If then that contractor who is appointed then needs ancillary support, they will work with us and in turn work with the project to get that on to compete for, to find those local suppliers. So again, it's why we come back to our portal being so important and how we make procurement as easy and as open as possible for as many businesses. And it's also very good to hear that obviously that timeline that you saw, that indicative timeline that the team showed of all the different packages, I said very soon that will be on that forward look on Compete For, which is why we encourage all businesses to make sure you're registered on there to have a look, because that forward look for the campus, but actually for all parts of the project, will enable you to best prepare. Because as you saw from Hannah and Elliot, there are things as a business that you might now need to go away and do. You saw the things on, like, for example, the ISOs, and I know many of you may have never entered into an NEC3 contract before. You know, we've previously done a webinar on this subject. We're actually planning later this year to potentially do another webinar on NEC3 contracts to ensure that people are best understanding what's about to come. So where there's areas where you as a business now need to do stuff to get ready for these opportunities that are coming and that forward look that you're going to have, that's where it's important that you reach out to us and talk to us. And final thing before we hand over to the pre-submitted questions, where you saw Hannah talk about the inductions and the vetting requirements and the prerequisites of people, the stuff that's on the screen there at the moment, we're very, very soon going to be updating onto our portal a list of all of these things. So not just to do with the campus, but actually to do with the project more broadly, to help you as a business again understand, yes, you might as a business need ISO 9001, but actually your people need to have X, Y, Z as well, because that again then helps you prepare your business as best you possibly can for Sizewell. But then also, if it's Sizewell standards, it's the same for the oil and gas sector, it's the same for the offshore wind sector, it's the same for the solar sector, and major infrastructure projects that are coming over the hill in this region as well. So actually by doing all this, it's getting you ready for Sizewell, it's actually getting you ready for multiple opportunities. Right, so Hannah, have you got a list of any of the pre-submitted questions that you want to attack in whatever order you want to go for?
I do, yes. I've got them on my screen up here, so apologies everyone for not looking at the camera. I won't answer them all because I think some of them have been answered throughout this this presentation anyway. But the first one is, will McLaren tender an overall fit out package? Yes, we will. It will, the Sizewell as a general, we will be tendering a fit out package, but we won't, the packaging strategy in terms of loose FF&E, etc., is still to be determined. So it will be an overall FF&E package, as you saw in the previous slides. There's a question around leveraging the existing supply chain. I think as you've hopefully noticed throughout this presentation, we will, the intent is for most or all of the packages to be competitively tendered, and therefore encouraging new supply chain onto Sizewell C. So if you are a current incumbent supply chain, please do the same and express your interest as you would normally. And if you're not, vice versa, please express your interest when these packages are available. There's a question on internal stairs. Please include the type of the content on the type of internal stairs that are proposed. I think as Elliot alluded to earlier, our design is not finalised yet in that programme, and therefore we are unsure on all the specifics. We are currently working through our REBA 2 and REBA 3 design for all parts of the campus, and therefore we can't share that information yet. I think that a couple of these other packages are around specifics in terms of how we're packaging things up. As we will share these slides afterwards, so I won't go and answer all of these questions, but that is our intent right now. But obviously, as with anything, with any project, things change and things can change. So this is the packages and the packaging strategy that have been issued on shared today is what we know currently. However, I reserve the right to change these, to change things if to suit the project. And sorry, I'm just reading. There's a question around are companies most likely to supply companies that win tenders rather than directly with Sizewell? How would you recommend we support your suppliers? I think, as we said, keep an eye out on Compete For. And also, Ash, correct me if I'm wrong here, but once our Sizewell contracts are signed and awarded, the awarded contractor for those original contracts are listed on Compete For, and therefore you know who to go to and who to reach out to for those suppliers and subcontract opportunities.
The process kind of works both ways. Is that the contract awardee list will go on to Compete For. So you as a business on the call today know who to go chase down. Yeah. In addition, in the main, that awarded contractor is then also introduced to us at the chamber. What we will then do is work with them, I suppose, in a simple way, the way we have with Elliot today. You know, as a contractor working for Sizewell, as then engaged with us to then look at the array of local and regional businesses that we have got, hence the invites today. You know, we had some 708 invites, I think, go out for today. That's the way we work. So kind of you have the ability to know who's winning work, to go and attack them and chase them down. But then also we are then in the background using that data you give us on the portal to say to them, here you go, here's the people you need to be talking to, here's the local businesses that can do this. So it comes back to that point. It's vital you turn up to things like this. It's fantastic to see so many of you, but keep your portal up to date, keep turning up to events, keep engaging with those opportunities as they come.
Perfect. I think that's it from the pre-submitted questions. I think the rest of them were covered in the slides.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Well, I think in general, Elliot, I'll let you go on to this as well. But I think there's a few around dates. I think on the thing that's flashed up, just to sort of emphasise the dates that Hannah and Elliot flashed up. As they said, there'll be a formal thing put on to Compete For all of that within the next few weeks. Yeah. Dates move on this project, right? And they don't always just move to the right. Sometimes they suddenly move hugely to the left, and suddenly tomorrow the most important thing in the world is something that was meant to be in 2026. So they're indicative dates. Some, it said, I think someone gave an example where it said ITT was May, yet we're now hitting July. I mean this in the nicest way, it's what happens on this project. The key is relationships and understanding and just keeping an eye. The project will be as transparent as it can be. Trust me when I say, as your chamber, we are constantly battering them to say we want more info, we want to share more info. The danger can sometimes be you give more info, that actually you've got more opportunities for things to be inaccurate, but we're always working on this. So, but I think as a general look, the timeline, you've got ideas, you know what's already gone out on Compete For. If it has gone out and you haven't expressed interest, in theory it is too late. But, you know, drop me an email and we can always ask the question. But it is a transparent, open procurement process. If you miss that opportunity, then it could be that sadly it's too late. It doesn't mean it's the end of the opportunity, as has been outlined. There will be more opportunities for loads of trades across the whole project, as well as more on campus. And whoever wins that contract may then need that localized solution, because it's not just going to be a contractor selecting a tier 2 who will select a tier 3. You look on the project, there are multiple tier 2s, multiple tier 3s, because this project is so vast and the timelines are so tight. So there is lots and lots of opportunity. Elliot, do you want to come in on that as well?
Yeah, 100%. I think you summarised it very well there. I think reading the sort of Q&As that have been answered, a lot of them are in regards to specific packages and if they've been let yet, and where we are in regards to the ultimate sort of strategy of framing solution, etc. And I think a lot of those, whilst we don't want to go into the specifics today, because I think we could be here for a long time talking about the minute details of the campus as a whole, because it's a fairly large scheme. The slides that will be shared and went through today will provide a bit more of an overview, and hopefully will allow everyone to have a bit more of an understanding as to how we currently perceive the package to be packaged up in regards to larger value trade contractors. And then once again, I think that will then feed into the whole sort of, we will then start that process again with the relevant trade contractors to ensure that it's shared onto Compete For. for the relevant splits thereafter, to make sure that everyone has sort of fair chance to price things up when given the opportunity to do so. And equally, I think, like you said, Ash, those dates that will be shared onto the Compete For look ahead by the end of the month will be what we are currently working to. And equally, I know the dates that were shared on the sides today have passed, and equally a few of those dates are pretty imminently, and it's all hinging upon the sort of current internal process of where we sit today. So I'd like to say, look, if you have got any sort of questions, I think as Ashley said, just drop him an email as the first port of call. He can then forward that over to Hannah and myself, and we can provide a bit more of an accurate update as to where we currently sit. And it might be a case of you're not too late, but equally, if you are too late for this one, it might be the amenity side of things. We can then have a conversation and say, look, just to let you know, the accommodation superstructure is coming out in a couple of weeks' time. Keep your ears peeled and keep looking for that and Compete For, and then we can go about it that sort of way.
Yeah, perfect. I think just a couple of the questions that are a bit more general. And like I say, every question that's been asked, we will get an answer back. It's just, like I say, you can end up diving too much into individual detail. And then you saw this 20 packages. We do individual detail on 20 packages. We'll be here all day. But I think one question's been asked. I think it's broadly been answered anyway with the way you're going to market. But I think it's important to give the clarity on it. So will the accommodation building be procured in separate parts, e.g. roof, walls, etc.? Or will it be procured as an entire building, i.e. modular buildings?
No. So parts will be modular, 100%. So I think from the expression of interest, you can see from the slides we shared today, bathroom pods being one will be modular off-site, and the general sort of perceptions, the way things will be packaged up there afterwards will be as you'd expect. So you have your superstructure, you have your facade, you have your roof packages there afterwards. That's the intent. As Hannah said, things do change. The design may develop over the next coming few months, weeks, whatever it is, and we may look to change that. But at the moment in time, for the expressions of interest, as they are very high level, let's be open about this on Compete For. We want to make sure that we make sure that everyone has a fair opportunity to register their interest, and we then have the right to have the conversations with those relevant specialised trade contractors to make sure that we ultimately get the best ones for Sizewell to deliver the scheme.
Yeah. And I think that again, the important thing, and that's where, again, I will fly the flag for the way Sizewell approach some of this, is sometimes the simple way is just one big package, get it done, leave it to someone else to worry about. But they've done the breaking down of these packages because it gives the ability to give, stability across the supply chain. The capacity is going to be important because this needs to be delivered. You saw the timescales; it needs to be delivered on time. It's a critical part of this project, but also the more they break it down, the more opportunity there is for more localized, smaller businesses. Now, it doesn't mean that local businesses are going to win every contract. Obviously, we as a chamber would love them to, but actually, at least it gives that opportunity much better than a big package that's 50, 60 million quid that absolutely no one will be able to handle. By breaking it down, it gives that opportunity. It makes it more palatable and more possible for local businesses to get themselves ready. And also, as Elliot said, we've seen it with other packages. Take the park and rides as an example. They were let as two separate packages. They ended up being awarded as one together because the best for the project and the best bid and the best everything around it, that made the most sense. But the intention is to always look, let's see what's possible. And if the right athletes come forward, being able to do it at the right time, at the right price, in the right way, then that will be able to deliver on what they would ideally like to do. So I think it's important, keep that feedback coming through to us.
Just pick on the one that's come through is probably a very, very good point just to finish on, possibly. I think
that's probably, yeah. So
just to summarise, I think ultimately all contracts are between Sizewell and the trade contractors.
Yeah.
Nothing on the scheme is between McLaren and anyone. McLaren are here in contract with Sizewell under a CMA agreement, and we are here to aid and administer the contract for and behalf of Sizewell. Everything is direct with Sizewell, so all packages for the scheme will be direct between Sizewell and whoever ultimately wins those packages. So there's no sort of prerequisite or requirements to be on any sort of supply chain with McLaren. It's all, as I think Hannah and Ashley have said a few times, the best way is register and compete for the sort of the fundamental pillars that Sizewell have, the relevant ISO policies, the things that are required to get onto the scheme, and then everything else is a nice to have that can be worked through over the course, really.
Okay, perfect. One
There's a question.
Oh, go on.
Sorry, actually, there's a question on park and rides and where they are.
Yes.
As you talked about that contract, there is a south park and ride and there is a north park and ride. My knowledge of off-site is not the best, so just to confirm, is it one at Darsham?
Yeah. So Darsham is north, so right next to the rail station, opposite the garage. It's classed as Wickham Market. If you're local, it's Hatcherston, but that's semantics. Don't worry. Suffolk can't have a go because Wickham Market train station isn't even in Wickham Market. But yeah, so Wickham Market is then the southern park and ride. What the project will be doing is the points outside of those park and rides will evolve as the project evolves. So they've already made it very clear there will be buses from the north, from Pakefield, and there will be buses from the south, from Ipswich. And then what the project will do, similar to what it does at Hinckley, is it does an annual survey of workforce to work out where everyone's coming from. So the bus routes over the course of the next 10 years can and will change, because there's no point a bus going that direction if no one lives there, when if it goes that way, it would save another 100 cars having to go somewhere. So the main sites are Darsham and Wickham Market. There will be approved routes from there to site that might tweak. And then, like I say, you will see from bigger population areas like Ipswich and Lowestoft, free buses that will take you to the park and rides, which will then take you to site.
Yeah.
I think the only other question which I'd like to do before we finish on this one, so because I think it's an important one that actually Brian asked right towards the start. So if a company wins a contract, on this, that already has preferred subcontractors, will that subcontracting work get bypassed from Compete For?
I'd like to say it's a difficult one to answer, Brian. Obviously, we would, as I said earlier, we will encourage all of our tier one trade partners to utilise Compete For, and I think we'd like to see an element of competition encouraged throughout the subcontractors. Obviously, as NEC, if you're aware of the NEC contract, key subcontractors are to be approved by the employer, aka Sizewell in this instance. So Sizewell would need to be approving that the subcontractor for the works either way. I won't say that it will be bypassed and they were bypassed, because obviously if you have relationships and you have agreed rates, etc., then that's also encouraged. So we'd like to see both, I guess. I guess that just means I'd like to see both.
No, but it's an important one, and it's perfectly fair, because there is established supply chains. But again, so to put Brian at rest, whoever wins one of these contracts is then going to outline their commitments. So all of those ESG commitments, it's going to be whoever wins is going to tell Sizewell how they're going to meet those various ESG commitments, local supply chain spend, apprentices, whatever it may be. That will then go into their contract in the same way McLaren will have those sorts of things in their contract. So if you're a company that is going to win stuff, you're going to say you're going to spend X amount locally. If then all you do is you try and bring in your existing subcontractors, none of whom are in the region, then that's not going to fly. And that's the reason why Sizewell own the relationship on the contracts, because then they're able to administer this in the right way through McLaren. So if you're a local subcontractor to someone who wins something, your argument shouldn't just be, hey, we've always worked together. Your argument should be, we've always worked together, and you know what, I solve your problem on Sizewell because I'm local already. It gives you an extra advantage to be able to say, you need to use me on this project. But I'm already seeing it from those replicated tier one contractors from Hinckley, who have to be replicated because of the expertise that they've learned building Hinkley Point C for the past number of years, that what they're doing is they're not just bringing their supply chain across. They are the experts. They are the replication. Their supply chain is not the replication. So therefore, we work with them to then work out how they deliver all that scope using all of those learnings from Hinckley, but do that using local firms as much as they possibly can, as long as it doesn't fundamentally cost 3 times as much, take 3 times as long, etc. So it does have to be balanced and nuanced, but there is this drive to do more good on Sizewell, even compared to what they did at Hinckley. So it should still give you confidence, Brian. But again, as always, Oh, go on.
Just
Sorry.
sorry, Ash, just to add to that, that is why we are building things differently than the campus was built on Hinckley. Obviously, we have those lessons learned. We are going under a construction management, as we've explained, approach earlier, and we are encouraging we are not doing full D&B to ensure we're giving that local opportunity. And that is probably the key lessons learned from Hinckley.
Fantastic. Well, look, we will, any other questions that are on there, we will answer. I think most of the others that are still there are actually to do with what's either already been discussed or to do with the timeline that, as we said, that will go on. So what will happen from now is over the course of the next few days, we will get the slides and the recording of today sent out to everyone that registered. If you have any questions, obviously most of you have got mine or any of my team's emails. You've also got our email on the screen there at the moment for the general box. Please come through to us. Let us know if there's things out of today that you need help with, that you need extra explanations on to help understand them better. Then that's what we're there to reach out to us. We can then obviously reach into the project, so Hannah, Elliot, etc., to really help people understand within the project what the concerns are. So there will be lots and lots of opportunity around there. So please make sure, keep coming back to us, let us know what you need. And I say any other questions that we didn't get to answer today, what we will do is when we send out the email, or if we can't get all the answers immediately, we will send out subsequently all answers to all questions. And then again, if that drives any further questions or intel that you need, again, just reach out to us as a team and we'll support that. Hannah, Elliot, anything else from you before we finish?
Just one quick thing. Obviously, as Elliot mentioned, we have a couple of EOIs out on Compete For currently, and they finish on Friday. So if you are those trade parties, have a look and register your interest by Friday. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent. Well, just, you know what, just because it's been asked twice, can contracts be awarded to supply only companies rather than supply and fit?
At the minute, we are looking for supply and install contracts due to interfaces within Sizewell. However, that, as I said earlier, that's not to say things will not change. And obviously those those installation companies always need suppliers. So reach out to those winning bidders.
Yeah, exactly. So it might be that you award to someone who can do supply and install, but actually then aspects of the supply underneath. And there is a bigger piece, you know, and this isn't just campus, this is the project as a whole, around those commodities that are required, those bits of supply that are just needed across the whole project. I mean, I'm no expert on this, but everything from tools to whatever else. So the project is currently looking at the strategies around commodities to ensure that, again, they can be nice and transparent with the routes and the ways in which they can get local supply involved in these sorts of things with those major contractors who would tend to do this. So again, stay in touch with the team at the Chamber on that, and we will educate more once we understand more of the detail behind that. But look, I'll say thank you to everyone for now. Enjoy the rest of your day, and look forward to seeing you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.